Bollection back, bro. Okay. Thanks for tuning in. I'm your host, Kevin. This is my homie, Kris. What's up, Kris?
Hey, bro. How you doing?
How you doing today?
Gnarly, man. Gnarly.
You got your Del Taco on the way
Loaded up
home?
Del Taco.
You're a big Del Taco fan.
Yes, yes. Can't pass up the Del.
Nope. No, you can't. And I'll try to make this short because I know you need to go to the restroom ASAP after that.
I'm on the toilet right now.
Okay, thanks for sharing. Um,
Killing two birds with one stone.
yeah. So if you hear some activity in the background, guys, just keep that in mind. Anyways, so I'm pretty excited for the movie tonight. This is like gonna be like a magnum opus, I think. You know, this is gonna be like Kill Bill Volume 1, Volume 2. You know, because we have one of my favorite movies, um, great action movie, classic '90s film, and in honor of Women's History Month, female director. So that's right, we're doing Point Break. Point fucking Break.
Totally
Direct,
awesome, dude. Totally awesome.
directed by Kathryn Bigelow, who is a great director. She did Zero Dark 30, that was the shit. She also did Hurt Locker, that was the shit. Um, and I always thought she was pretty hot too. FYI. I don't know. I couldn't see why James Cameron left her to go with Linda Hamilton, but you know, to each his own.
Hamilton's
Um,
not bad either.
yeah, she was a little too
Which,
muscular for me in T2, you know. But hey, yeah, to each his own. Kathryn Bigelow. So Point Break. I fucking love this movie. I would always see it growing up, like on cable or whatever. You know, every time I'd see it on, I'd be like, "Oh shit!" I just had to stop everything and just watch it. You know, get my chips, get my snack, and eat eat that while watching it. You know, for the next couple hours. Um, when did you first see this? Do you remember?
probably right when it came out.
Yeah, did you see it in the theater?
Yeah, I think so. I was in my 20s, early
I'm sure you
teens.
don't remember.
Yeah,
Okay, but yeah.
had a lot of
So
heat. Had a lot of heat when it came out. A lot of people were like, "Gotta see this."
yeah, I'm sure it did. And yeah, I mean, I knew about Swayze. You know, I saw Swayze in Ghost. I actually saw Ghost in the theater. Um, as a kid, as a little kid, my mom took me to see that. Uh, she didn't have anyone else to kind of hang out with, so she just took me. And I remember seeing Ghost, and it was like trippy, especially especially as a kid. You know, it was just like you know, it was kind of scary but kind of sad. You know, it was kind of trippy, but I mean, I remember even at the end of the day, it had like an emotional, like, like into that film, or just like an emotional experience watching that. You know, I walked out of the theater as like a 5 year old, like, wow, like I know everything about life now. You know, like I know what happens when you die now. You know, like I was really,
Wow.
affected by that film. So seeing Swayze in this, it was like a total 180. I was like, what the hell? The ghost dude, he's surfing now, and he looks like this hippie dude. And then I don't think I knew much about Reeves at the time. You know, seeing this right after it came out, yeah, I didn't really know much about him. I think I had seen little bits of Bill and Ted, and I think even as a little kid, I thought this is fucking stupid. It's just it was just ridiculous. You know, even as a kid, I was like just like a snob, and I was just like, this is just like, dude, where's my car? 30 years earlier, you know. So I was just, I was never the hugest Bill and Ted fan, but somehow those two guys in this movie was just a magic, a magic concoction, you know. So let's go to our cliched Wikipedia description? Can you give me a moment to do that, Kris? So Wikipedia describes this as follows: former Ohio State quarterback and rookie FBI agent Johnny Utah assists senior agent Angelo Pappas in investigating a string of bank robberies by the ex-presidents, quote unquote, robbers who wear rubber masks of former presidents Ronald Reagan, Jimmy Carter, Richard Nixon, and Lyndon B. Johnson. Rather than robbing the vault, they only demand the cash the tellers have in their drawers and are gone within 90 seconds. I wonder if that was like an alternate title for this, Gone in 90 Seconds or something like that.
You bet.
But actually, they end up calling it Point Break, which I guess refers to the point where a wave breaks as it hits a point of land jutting out from the coastline. I don't know anything about surfing. I never surfed. Did you?
No, I can't say. I knew a lot
Yeah,
of
I mean,
surfers
actually,
growing up, but
yeah, actually, my brother used to surf a lot. I don't think he does really much now, but he's the one who's into surfing. I'm not. But yeah, that's what why the movie's called that. I almost thought it was like a basketball movie, when you hear that title. But yeah, and so the movie opens up and we see the ocean, and I kind of like how the title card just appears, like it's like overlapping, and much like that overlapping, there was an overlapping time period from like the 80s and 90s, like when this came out, 91. Like there was still some holdovers from the 80s. Like if you look at the soundtrack, it has Rat and L.A. Guns and Ice-T, and there's an early Sheryl Crow song, so that's like something from the 90s. Also, obviously, Anthony Kiedis, who you like to call Anthony Kiddis, is
yes,
in the
it's
film for some reason. And
correct pronunciation. We all know that.
okay, uh, um, I would say Chili Peppers are like one of the essential 90s bands. Even though they started out in the 80s, they never blew up until not the 90s. Blood Sugar Sex Magic. So it is like this kind of meeting point of like 80s 90s clash. And so yeah, we see these dudes surfing, and we juxtapose that with this dude Johnny Utah. He's shooting in the rain. He's like training. It almost looks like the training sequence of Silence of the Lambs, kind of. So we juxtapose his FBI training with them surfing, and and the rain kind of like foreshadows the rain at the end. The big wave in Australia at the end, and it's hella rainy. It's kind of like bookended by the rain. That's kind of cool. And then we see Johnny, played by Keanu, to the LA FBI headquarters or whatever, and we see John C. McGinley of Scrubs fame, and he's always been like a character actor, but he just has that type of look that you can just set your watch to his face.
Hmm.
Um, and we see him, and he's almost like Principal Skinner in this, like he's like, "Do you maintain good physical fitness?" And Keanu kind of plays with him like, "Sir, I take the skin off chicken, sir." Like, and he's like, "Good man." you know. Um, and then like John C. McGinley kind of figures out that he's kind of playing with him, in this, and he's like, "I get it, young, dumb, full of cum." Um, he busts that out, and then he says, "Oh well, we must have ourselves an asshole shortage around here." And then I love Keanu's reaction, the "not so far." I love that. Um, then we see Angelo Pappas, played by Gary Busey, and so they take Johnny to the Olympic-sized pool that they have, the kind of aquatic center that they have, and we see all these guys kind of training in the pool, and Angelo Pappas is like blindfolded or something, and he's like, "Oh, they got me working with some quarterback punk, Johnny Unitas or something." And he's like, "Utah," and then he like opens up his blindfold, and he's like, "Oh," he's like, "Pappas, Angelo Pappas," and he's like, "Punk, quarterback punk." and he's like, "Welcome to SeaWorld, kid," and he jumps in the pool. I love that. But yeah, I fucking love Gary Busey. He's just fucking great. I wish he was still doing shit. Somebody needs to revive his ass. You know, I think maybe Tarantino could do a good
Hmm.
job. Maybe like Darren Aronofsky could do like a wrestler sort of thing with him. You know, I just always thought he was hilarious. Every movie he does, I think it's fucking great. And then we cut and we see the ex presidents in action. We see them come into the bank, they rob it. We see all their moves, and and that was pretty cool. Like as a kid, I always loved the president mask. I like as a kid, it's like I kind of didn't get who the hell they were supposed to be, but then I kind of figured it out, and I was like, that was kind of cool about it. And something about these masks, they're like kind of scary. Like even as when I was a kid, especially, like I would see them, like there's something creepy about these masks.
Hmm.
Now we see the actual president, and it's even creepier than these masks. you know, um, but yeah, that's another topic. And then the cops come and afterwards and they're like the other partners. Like you see these two guys, like there's like a Mexican guy and a white guy, and they're kind of like the opposite, like the other guys. You know what I'm saying? Like these guys are the other guys, and they almost remind me of the buddy cops from White Chicks. Like in White Chicks, we had the white dude and the Mexican dude in there, and these guys are almost like a precursor to that. And we see Pappas and Utah come in, and they're kind of more reckless, while these other guys are like more straight laced. And that Mexican guy was annoying in this movie. By the way, he was pissing me off. I hated his like flat top that he had. He was pissing me off. He wasn't a very chill Mexican, and they kind of allude that Pappas has some wild theory as to the robberies, and he's like, "Yeah, totally right, dude." They're saying shit like that. Utah's like, "What do you mean? Like, what are they referring to?" So they take a call on a random stolen car, like up in the hills somewhere, and they're checking it out, and Utah kind of like shames him into telling him his theory. They kind of like argue, and it kind of escalates, and he's like, "Hey, come on, old man, like, you wanna like tell me your shit?" And he's like, "Listen, you little snot nose little shit. I was taking shrapnel in Quezon while you were crapping in your hands or rubbing it on your face."
Nicely done.
Yeah,
Nicely done.
I love that. And then he's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You mad? Yeah." He's like, "It makes you feel alive, huh? Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, what's your theory?" He's like, "The ex-presidents are surfers." And he's like, "What?" He's like, "You lost me." Like he's totally dumbfounded by that, and he kind of tells him his theory and the reasons for it, and they have the sex wax, the like the he found like they found the residue of that, so that's what he's thinking. And then he always brings this line in every fucking movie he does. Gary Busey, he says they disappeared like a virgin on prom night. He always says that. He says it in like Silver Bullet. He says something virgin on prom night. I think he says it in like Under Siege. He says something virgin on prom night. I guess that was a beautiful time of his life, losing his virginity on prom night. um,
And disappearing afterwards, I guess. I don't know.
yeah, I guess so. And then like it's funny how like he moons, like when the surfer dude, when they leave the bank and he moons the camera or whatever, then he
Hmm.
rewinds it, which I mean that actually doesn't make sense because like the perspective of that shot, it's like who would be filming the mooning? Like we
It's
were
zoomed
seeing
in on.
that, huh?
It's like zoomed in on for some reason.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying we're seeing it play out like as a movie, and then like you know, but he rewinds it, but it's like we're seeing the movie footage rewound. You know what I'm saying? Not the security cam footage. You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
it kind of doesn't make sense, but
Yeah.
whatever. I've seen other movies do that too, where
I
they
like the juxtaposition though, because he was saying they're surfers, and the next thing we see is a big ass that says "thank you" on it on big screen, just right there in front of your face. Like, I don't know. Maybe that was a joke. I don't know, but that was nice how she, the woman director,
Yeah,
Bigelow, switched. Like, I wasn't expecting that to pop up all of a sudden on the screen.
yeah, yeah. It was a nice ass juxtaposition there. Yeah. Thanks for pointing that out, Kris. Um,
And it freezes on Tubi right at that spot. So if you're watching the movie and you stop and get something, then you have to watch this over and over and over. I watched it
just
3 times.
it like
So
comes back to the ass,
it starts right there. It's like, okay,
in
this is where
case
you
you
left
missed
off.
it,
Let's
here's
finish
his
this.
ass, and
Yes.
then let's carry on from there. so, so Utah tells Busey, Pappas, whatever. He tells him, he can ask around, for the surfers. Like, let me just go to the beach and ask around. But Pappas is like, no, man. Like, you got to be one of them. Like, you got to learn their culture and their lingo. Like, you can't just walk up to them. You gotta speak surfer.
You got to be
You
out
gotta,
there in the water with them. You have to be amongst them because they're a tribe. And you're not going to be a part of the tribe if you're sitting on the beach.
yeah,
So
exactly. Like, he's like, you gotta say like, so pitted, brah. Like, you gotta say stuff like that. you know, that's the only way they'll trust you. Um, so he does try surfing, and he almost fucking drowns. And Lori Petty saves him. Another surfer in the water. You like the Lori Petty?
deep blue eyes, young, beautiful, spiky hair. I'm glad they didn't go with the classic, beautiful Baywatch babe here. They went with more of a classy, pixie-like
Yeah, it was like she
character.
was like a pre-manic pixie dream girl, which obviously was a cliche later on with Garden State, and which I fucking hate that movie. Garden State with Natalie Portman. I love Natalie Portman, but I hate the movie. And then all these other movies kind of copied that, this manic pixie dream girl stereotype, where it's like the dream of every white dude who loves the Shins. Like like she was almost like a precursor to that, but it wasn't as like cliche. It was like she was the one, and nobody really copied that for a long time. After that, it was just Baywatch, Pamela Anderson. Fuck some blondes, as you like to say. So yeah, no, that's a good point. She was a real like pixie ingenue, petite. That was a different kind of look. So I mean, yeah, but leave it. I think she was probably cast because of Bigelow. You know what I'm saying? Like, she didn't want like just a big titty blonde on the beach. She wanted something more realistic. You know what I'm saying? So I think that was cool casting her, and she had a good little run in the '90s. Up to Tank Girl. And that kind of tanked, and it kind of derailed her career for a while. But she had a nice little run.
Had a pretty good
Um,
soundtrack though. The soundtrack was pretty good for Tanker.
yeah, and also that was the first appearance of Naomi Watts, which is great. You know, it's almost like when you have a comics, some shitty comic book, but you get the first appearance of this character. You know what I'm saying? It's like that shitty movie, but you get the first appearance of Naomi Watts, so that's great. So she saves him from drowning, and he's like kind of on the beach. He's like, "My name's Johnny Utah," and she's like, "Who cares?" And then the next scene I love, like he goes back to the FBI office, and he kind of shows her to Pappas, and Pappas, you Gary Busey, he's like, "That's your surfing contact? Blue eyes, brown hair, 122 pounds. Jesus, Utah." I don't get why he like cups his breast as he says the 122 pounds.
Well, she's petite, but I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, just
Doesn't
yeah,
she doesn't look like that. I mean, she's fit.
yeah,
Yes, she
yeah.
doesn't look that heavy.
But it's just funny how it goes 122 pounds. Jesus, Utah. And then here is a very important part of the film. This has spawned many things for me. So here's the thing. So this movie has been done on rewatchables on The Ringer, and they did a great job with it. But there's some blind spots in that podcast, and that's where we come in. We got the Briterion blind spot bitches. You know what I'm saying? Like, we find the blind spots in other people's shit. Something they truly missed here is the classic line that a very minor character says in the film. So after he says that 122 pounds, Jesus, Utah, we go to the girl there who's sitting in the office, who I thought would have a bigger part in the film, but she doesn't really. She says, "Not bad, Utah," which is a classic line. So that "not bad, Utah," I say that all the fucking time. I say
Yes,
that whenever somebody does something, and you've heard me say that, right? We say it all the time, right?
all the time.
Yeah. So like I always say, "Not bad, Utah," when somebody does something good or some shit. Like I'm like, "Not bad, Utah," and then that's how I know you're cool or not. If you get where that comes from. Like if you don't get where that comes from, then you're not cool. But if you do, then you are cool. You passed my test. So the whole "not bad, Utah" thing is like a litmus test for me. You know, if you can get where that's from, then you're in my cool book. So that's something that the rewatchables really missed. That's a pivotal line. Um, so that's why I needed to set the record straight with that. Um, so they tell him that her parents died in a plane crash. So he kind of uses that angle, like, you know, he's like, okay, here, let me try
This
to
is
like
my
use
in.
that.
This is how I get in there.
Yeah, yeah, parents
Dead
dead.
parents.
Ooh,
He was
now's the
digging to
time.
find something to connect with her. That's
Yeah,
the thing he chooses.
yeah, exactly. So he's like, all right, let me work this parents dead angle. So he's like the meme of the black guy behind the trees, you know. He's like, parents dead. Okay. Um.
Excellent.
So yeah. So he sees her again. He goes to the little like beach restaurant that she works at, and he's there and standing in front of her, and she's like, what do you want? And he's like, burger and fries. And she's like, no, I mean, what do you want? you know, and he's like, oh, I want to serve, and she's like, you're freaking 30 years old now, you want to surf? Like, what the hell got into you? And he makes up that line, like, all my whole life I've always done everything for my parents. I've always tried to please them, and then all of a sudden they die in a car crash, and then you see her eyes kind of like, okay, like now I get it, or whatever. Like she falls for him when he says that. She sympathizes him, so she's like, all right, I'll teach your ass how to surf. We're like, meet me here in the mornings and get off my ass. She teaches him, and then I love the little montage and the cheesy song that I will not fall. I will not fall.
Very
It's a
reminiscent of Karate Kid, the romantic little montage with the playing the putt putt golf, except with water and surfing instead of all that other stuff that they did.
yeah, exactly. Nah, yeah, I love that. It's a great little montage. Um,
Didn't
and
find
it's
it out of
crowded.
place. The music and everything didn't like throw off the tone for you.
No,
No.
no, no. I thought it was perfect. I like that's the whole thing. I mean, you know, there is something kind of cheesy to the movie, but that's
Hmm.
part of what I really love about it. You know what I'm saying? Like those cheesy moments are what make it so great. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like we don't have enough cheesiness nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Every movie kind of takes itself too seriously, nowadays, and it's just like, dude, throw in some shitty ass montage, but like, don't be a comedy in a way. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't a comedy, but there's a lot of funny moments in it. I feel like a lot of modern movies are really missing that sense of humor. Um, so then, like that, after that little montage, we hear kind of this spiritual music, this like new agey like thing on the score. It was kind of chimey thingy. And Keanu looks over and he's like, "Who's that, bro?" And Lori Petty tells him, "Oh, that's Bodhi, as in Bodhisattva. It's like the most pretentious fucking name you could think of." And Bodhi walks back to shore and he kind of sneaks up behind Lori Petty, and the little like look in Keanu's eyes, he's like trying to pretend like he doesn't know what's going on. Well, which he doesn't know what's going on, but he tries to like sell he doesn't know what's going on. And then he kind of sneaks up behind Petty and kind of grabs her, and they kind of like, kind of almost kiss or something like that, and he can see that there's like some history there, like he thought that he could get laid, but then he sees him with her, and he's like, oh shit, I don't have a shot now. You know what I'm saying? This guy's a fucking great server. I still guess, you know. And they kind of like go off to the side, and yeah, Bodhi's like, who's the guy? You replace me? She's like, kind of like, come on, like he's from Kansas or something. He's like, he's from Kansas, like, he thinks he's pretty lame. He just looks like a square to him, and his other homies, Bodhi's other homies with the long hair, they're kind of throwing the pigskin on the beach, also throwing the football on the beach, and they kind of toss it to him as he's like walking back, and he catches it like with one hand, like he has a hand on the surfboard, and then the football just slides into his left hand or whatever, his right hand, and it's just a cool ass shot. And he throws it. I think he throws it to Utah's ass, and Utah catches it, and he's like, "All right, dude, like let's get it on, and then you hear this like kind of drumming, cheesy music that kind of overlaps into the next scene, and so they're playing full on beach white dude football. You know what I'm saying? Like it's full on. Like they got cars lined up with the headlights on, lighting up, lighting up the field, quote unquote. And the dude throws the ball to Swayze, and Swayze catches it, and he's running on the side, like of the lip of the beach, like running on the water basically. And then Johnny's like, "Argh!" And he runs over there and just tackles the shit out of him, and he's rolling on the beach, And then they're like, "What's your problem, dude?" All his other boys, and you see Swayze get up, and he's like looking at him all pissed off. He has that pissed off look in his face, and they're like, "What's going on? Like, what's your problem, dude?" And then all of a sudden, Swayze is like, "You know who this is?" And they're like, "No, I don't know who this is." He's like, "Johnny Utah, Ohio State Buckeyes." And they're like, "Oh shit!" And all of a sudden, they all know who he is.
Mm.
They're like, "My bad, dude. I didn't recognize you, bro." And then it's funny because you can hear one of the dudes in the background. He's like, "Lawyers don't surf," and he's like, "This one does." I would have laughed so hard. It would have been funny if, the game is over and they go back to their cars and they're like, "Shit, car won't start. Got jumper cables, bro." None of their cars fucking start at the end of that. And so it's funny. And then I like the little cut to the next scene because we see him just from the security camera. I like how it just starts off with a totally different look. So we see Keanu coming in with the surfboard, through the security camera. It's a nice little touch. And he goes to McGinley's office, and McGinley is pissed. He sees him, and he's like, "Yes, the surfboard bothers me. Yes, your whole approach to this whole goddamn case bothers me. And yes, you bother me." And Keanu's just looking at him all like stern face, kind of, and he's like Pappas is like, "This it's gonna take a little time," and then McGinley's like, "Well, so far you've produced squat," and so Pappas is like, "Hey," tells Keanu, "Hey, dude, we got a hair sample. Let's try to get some fucking hair on the beach or whatever." And so they just start going around the beach, cutting random surfer dudes' hairs, um, and he goes up to the one dude. He's like, "Hey, man," like he's like, "Watch out, bro! Like you got a huge sucker right there," and he just like rips a shitload of hair.
Got a big bald patch on the back of his head.
Yeah, exactly. And dude's like, "Hey," he's like, "Leave some fucking hair, bro." Just great, it's fucking genius. And it's yeah, it's just kind of funny how like this was early into Keanu's career, like obviously he's had a great career ever since then, but it's funny how it was like he was kind of playing with that Bill and Ted image, you know what I'm saying? It was like, hey, I played some dumb surfer dude in this movie, like now a couple years later I'm playing a dumb FBI agent who is like pretending to surf, you know what I'm saying? Like there's like some layers to it. That's kind of funny. And so Keanu, he's like encroaching on some other surfer's territory. We see him like getting a wave, and he's like crashing into dudes and shit. And these dudes are fucking pios. They're like, "What the fuck, bro?" And I love the song. There is Seven and Seven is, which it's actually that song. The original song is by the group Love from the '60s. Arthur Lee is the mastermind of that band. It was a great psychedelic folk rock LA band in the late '60s. They're really good. But the cover is by Living Color, which is great. That's another '80s band, obviously. You used to rock the body glove back in the day, right, Kris?
Yes,
Used to
all
rock,
the time, man.
yeah.
Bright
Used to rock
purple
the,
and black. Yeah. Mm,
yeah. And you had the dreads, and you'd be like rocking out to
yeah.
it. You had the white dreads. Yeah. So, but it's cool. So let the record be known that Kathryn Bigelow used this song. I mean, it's not the same version, but she used this song before Wes Anderson used it, the original, in Bottle Rocket. Like a lot of people like to give Wes Anderson credit for his music, and as they should. He's great with the music and the soundtracks, but got to give Bigelow her due by using this song before him back then. And so, like, yeah, he's crashing into other surfer dudes, and the guy's like, "You ding my board, bro," and they're like, "Go back to the valley, man." And they're pissed off at him, and that dude, that like mixed black dude, surfer dude, he's the guy from Cyborg with what's his name, Keanu, not Keanu, with Jean Claude Van Damme, which is a
Mm.
great. You saw Cyborg, right? Cyborg with Jean Claude.
I'm sure I did. I don't remember it though. He did a
It's a
lot of
great movie.
movies. Yeah.
We gotta watch that shit again. I
Sci-fi.
mean, I don't know if it's as good, but I remember at the time, I fucking loved it. It was really dark. It was almost like a bleak Bloodsport. You know what I'm saying? It was like Bloodsport kickboxer, but like in the future with cyborgs and shit. It was pretty cool. But yeah, the mixed black dude, he's he's in Cyborg. So seeing, and I saw those like around the same time, so it was weird. It was kind of like, it was like, oh, what's the cyborg doing surfing in this? And then it was like, what's the surfer dude like doing in Cyborg? It was like, it was just kind of weird at the time, And I was a little kid, so I didn't get how acting kind of worked. And so he goes to the shore, and he's like taking a shower, washing off the chlorine there. Uh, all of a sudden, you see some dudes walk up to him while he's like closing his eyes, taking the shower, and then they like turn off the water, and he's like looking around, like, what the hell? And he sees the guys, the surfer dudes around him, pissed off at him. So we see mixed black dude, we see blonde dude with the goatee, and we see a young man by the name of Anthony Kiddis there staring at him quite sternly, And Keanu says, he's like, "Let me guess, like, this is where you tell me that locals rule and yuppie scum like me needs to take a hike." And the blonde dude's like, "Nope." And Kiedis is all like, "That would be a waste of time." And then Nick's black dude is like, he's like, "We're just gonna fuck you up." He tells him that, and then he's like, "Oh, okay." And then like all hell kind of breaks loose. He starts kind of, getting punched and fighting, and I don't know if they like strangle him with some shit right there, like the surf, like the surf cord or whatever. Like they like try to strangle his ass with it, and it's kind of funny because you see, like, we cut to Pappas trying to call him like on the radio or something like that, and he's like, "You copy, Utah?" He's like, "You better not be trying to pick up any babes." Like, it's just a funny line. And yeah, I always wonder, why is Anthony Kiedis in this? You know what I'm saying? I guess Bigelow is a real Mother's Milk fan. She liked "Knock Me Down." If you see me getting high, if you see me getting by, knock me down. I guess she must have liked that.
He knocked him on
Um,
his ass with one punch.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah,
I heard it
it's
was
pretty pathetic.
punishment because he didn't train for the. He wasn't going to the trainings or something, so they said, "One punch, you're down," and he didn't like that. So then he committed more to being there all the time, and then you'll find out later on what happens to his ass.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Blood Sugar Sex Magic came out that year, but I think I'm sure they shot it before then, so it was like
Mhm.
you know,
Great album.
I guess yeah, great album.
SoCal.
You could say this is like the peak of culture in a way. 1991. Come on, because you got Point Break, you got New Jack City, you got Terminator 2, all this one year, and then you look at music. You got Blood Sugar Sex Magic, you got Nevermind. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? Like these are great albums, great films that have stood the test of time. So is this the peak of culture? Maybe. Um, And so we see them kicking Keanu's ass, and then Swayze is around and he sees it, so he runs over and he intervenes, and he starts like pushing dudes around and punching out dudes. They're like, "Stay out of this, buddy," and and it's funny because they talk like stereotypical ass surfers. You know what I'm saying? Like if it was racist to mock surfers, this movie would be canceled. You know what I'm saying? It's like so
A
stereotypical.
lot of stereotypes. A lot of
Yeah,
stereotypes.
yeah. This is hella stereotypical surfer shit. But luckily it isn't racist to mock surfers. And so yeah, and I like how Keanu's like, "Oh, what's your name, dude?" And he's like, "Bunker." He's like, "Bunker." He's like, "I'm really glad you approached me." He's like, "Why is that?" He's like, "Because," he starts like punching him again. I love that. It's hilarious. Yeah. So Keanu and Busey, they kind of do a stakeout and they follow Kiedis to their house, and they're kind of like, "Oh, these guys sell drugs, so these guys must be the guys." You know what I'm saying? They must be, the ex presidents, and but I mean, actually, right before that, Keanu is walking with Swayze, and Swayze, you know, tells him, he's like, "Fucking hate these guys." You know what I'm saying? And then he's like, why?" And he's like, "The fucking Nazi assholes or whatever." He's like, we're like, "What do you mean?" And he's like, "Are they into?" He's like they do stupid shit. And he's like, "What, illegal shit?" Like he's like fishing for, seeing if he knows, like maybe he knows they're the ex presidents, like illegal shit. And Swayze's like, "No, no, no, that's not what I mean." He's like, "They just live to be radical, so they don't get the spiritual side of it." And I actually love that he mentions that. I mean, that's really kind of the philosophy of this movie. It's kind of like, yeah, really with anything, any art form. You know what I'm saying? Like like if you're just doing it just for the views, just to go crazy, just to get money, drugs, women. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're doing it just for that, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You know what I'm saying? Like
Mhm.
that's the whole point. That's what he's trying to say. He's like he's he's a soul surfer, bro. Like he surfs to fulfill his soul. He doesn't just surf just to even get that high of being in the water or whatever. And like these guys, they surf just to look cool. You know what I'm saying? They don't do it for the love of the game. You know what I'm saying? They don't do it for his heart that he puts into it. So like I actually really like how he says that part. Um, yeah, and then we see Keanu and Pappas staking out those dudes, and so they kind of figured like, hey, okay, maybe these guys are the guys. Um, and then Keanu goes to this house party because Bodhi invited him to this house party. He's like, "Oh, like I'm having a house party. Go with Lori Petty. What's her name in the movie?"
Tyler?
Oh yeah, he's like, "Go with Tyler. Like she knows the way." You know what I'm saying? Like, and he's like, "All right." So like he goes to this house party, and it's funny the opening shot, like from his perspective walking in, like it's kind of cool, like because we see him go in, and it's cool. I love that they're playing Hendrix. If 6 was 9, I love that song. So they're playing Hendrix, if six was nine, and it's like from his perspective walking in, he sees like kind of this decadent surfer lifestyle, and then we see that one of the dudes who looks like he's from Ugly Kid Joe, he's like doing some stupid shit. he's like high as shit, and like the camera, like we see him like dancing, like all in the camera. He's like from his perspective, and he's just like, okay, what the fuck is that? And then we see he comes up to Bodhi, and Bodhi is doing this like tequila trick with this chick or whatever. Like Tyler is with Keanu, and she's like, I taught him that trick. She's like, I like it. um, and after that, we see them. They're having a bonfire, or whatever, and they're talking about waves and surfing and shit. And yeah, I think it's that Ugly Kid Joe kid. He's like, explaining, oh, like you're riding this wave, dude, and your balls, man, your balls are like this big. Yes, I always thought that was funny. And Keanu asks, and this is a very important scene. Actually, he asks, "What's the biggest wave?" And one dude says Waimea, one dude says Makaha, one dude says Dana Point, and then obviously Bodhi says Bells Beach, Australia. And they're like, the other dude's like, no way, Bell's bigger than Waimea, bro. And he's like, it will be next year. He's like, and then Tyler says, oh, Bodhi believes that there's like this going to be this huge 50-year storm that will hit Australia and make this big ass wave next year. And I like how Bodhi says, like, it's weird that he says it because it's like, why is he thinking so negative? But he's like, it's not tragic to die doing what you love. He tells them that, and it's kind of foreboding that he would say that. But I guess it was foreshadowing as well. So Tyler takes Keanu to the other room, and she asks him like, "You're not falling for this bonsai bullshit, are you?" And and she's kind of warning him, I guess, like he's such a charming dude, she's like, he'll take you past the edge. And then, all of a sudden Swayze's right there listening to the whole thing. And they're like, oh shit. He kind of takes them off guard. He's like Justin Theroux in Wanderlust. Like he just comes in, when you're taking a shit, he's like right next to you out of nowhere, because, and I would love to talk about Wanderlust sometime. Because in Wanderlust at that commune, they don't have any doors. Like there's no doors. Do you remember that? And then it's like he just wanders in and he just comes out of nowhere. They're just having a conversation. He walks right in. That's like how Bodhi was in this scene. He just kind of walks in and he tells him, he's like, hey, we got a late night mission. He's like, and he just like throws him a board. He like has all these boards just randomly standing around. It's like, here you go, bro. Here's your board. And so he rides with them on the waves in the dark, and then he actually makes it. He actually does ride a wave, and he's like, "I'm surfing, bro." And so see, this is where they truly accept Utah. Like he becomes one of them here. He can't surf like them quite as good, But this is where they officially kind of let him into their environment. Like they finally embrace him full on, And we see Keanu and Petty waking up on the beach, and it's like this cool overhead shot. I really like that shot. Mm-hmm. Obviously she's face down, sleeping, and he's just kind of reflecting, like looking up at the sky. And so yeah, we see that they hooked up there. And then he sees his watch or whatever, and he's like, "Shit, I'm late. Shit," and he's like putting off his pants, and he just keeps saying that. He's like, shit, shit. It's kind of funny. I mean, he probably improvised that. It came out pretty funny. He kisses her before he goes, and it's like he seems to like her a lot. Like he probably wasn't expecting that. I'm sure she wasn't either, but he seems to really like her. He gets to the stakeout, and they're about to raid the house. Like they're all around. All the cops are there. The other guys are there. Mexican flat top dude's there, and white dude there. And the Mexican guy's like, "This is bullshit. This is such a bullshit lead. This is such bullshit." Um, and so I like how Busey's like, okay, like follow my lead. I'm gonna, pretend I'm looking for my lost dog and kind of follow my lead. And so he's walking around. It's just funny. He's like, hey, Scuba, Scuba, Scuba. He's walking all around. So fucking annoying.
Like, what the fuck is he doing? I didn't know what he was doing. I don't know, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you walking around, you on Scooby?
I think he was trying to sell, like he was really looking for his dog,
Just
and it wasn't
asking
just
random people.
yeah.
Yes.
So he's like, Scuba, Scuba, where you at, Scuba? And then he subtly, goes up to that door and he knocks on the door, Scuba, Scuba, and he knocks it, and then all of a sudden, this chick in a bikini opens the door, and it's like, whoa, shit,
Hello.
nice, and and BC's like, whoa, like, wasn't expecting that, he's like, you seen the dog, like, yay high, and then like we see Kidis and Cyborg guy are in the back, and there's some other like bad bitches, like these guys have all these bad bitches. What the hell? They're like shit, like there's cops, and like we see them like loading up on guns. It's just funny that Kiedis is like shit, shit. He's like freaking out. But that chick, it's funny. The chick opens the door and she's like, "What the fuck do you want?" To Busey. I think she's very funny. And then he keeps going like, "You see the dog? Like, yay, hi, whatever." And she's like, "I don't know about your fucking dog." And then he just barges in. And he's like, "Oh, FBI, beautiful." He just barges in or whatever. And then they kind of start circling in, and then the neighbor like starts mowing the lawn. So these guys start grabbing their guns. Keanu calls them on the walkie, and he's trying to tell Pappas to move out of there. He's like, "Dude, these guys got an arsenal." He's like, "Move out, bro! Like, get out!" Whatever. And then, but you hear the lawnmowers haul out, and then it's funny because the Mexican guy is like, he's like, Pappas, he's like, Utah. He's like, I can't hear jack shit over this lawnmower. And yeah, like Kid he's like, oh shit, we're fucked. He's like really freaking out. And then we see a girl taking a shower while they're shooting out, like they're busting calves, and she's just stark naked. She's full on naked, showering. Um, and we see like Tom Sizemore like in the kitchen or whatever, and they just like tackle his ass. Like we didn't know who the hell you are, we were just fucking tackling you. So they just tackle him. I love that. Like they just tackle him and break the table. He falls over. I don't think there's any stunt guys at all. I think that was just him. And they just tackled his ass, and then the naked chick is like kicking Keanu's ass.
Fucking him up, man. She was fucking him up. I'm like, this is an FBI agent. What the heck?
Yeah,
Can't
she's
defend
just
yourself.
naked. She's just naked Chun Liing his ass. You know what I'm saying? He's like, oh shit. Just hilarious. Just
Entertaining.
yes, great cinema right there. And then Kiedis is trying to hide, and then like I don't know if it was Keanu or someone like bursts the door open, and then Kiedis like accidentally shoots himself in the foot, literally, and he's like, ah! Like he's screaming. Um, And then Keanu, he tackles the cyborg guy out of the window. Like the dude's like at the window, and he just like tackles his ass, and they break the window, and they're like rolling on the grass, and like they land in the lawnmower area, and then like cyborg dude gets on top of Keanu, and he's like a centimeter away from the fucking lawnmower. He's like so fucking close. It's like how the hell did they pull that off? Um, great, great filmmaking right there.
Yes. Nice
And then
visual vision there. Nice. What do you call it?
yeah, like I'm telling you, action. She shoots some of the best action ever. Like her and her ex, James Cameron. Like they both know how to shoot action. Watching this, like like in the chase scene later on, the running chase scene, like that reminded me a lot of the chase scene from True Lies. Like a lot of the angles were kind of similar. Like when he rolls off the edge of the fence or whatever. It's almost like when Arnold rolls off the edge of the hotel, on the horse, reminded me a lot of that. It was very similar. Like those, it's cool how they were married, and they must have really, taught each other, learned from each other. If anything, they're kind of like the Kurt Cobain and Courtney Love of cinema. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of rumors that Kurt wrote the whole songs from that first album live through this, but I don't necessarily think so. I think she was just very inspired by him. She could peek over his shoulder, like, what are you writing, and get shit from him. You know what I'm saying? Like, she knows how to play guitar. She's a student of the rock and roll game, believe it or not. So why not? And I think this is like a similar relationship. Like, she saw him do Aliens or whatever. Saw him do Abyss. And they're pretty much doing Terminator and that at the same time. They must have been. So they were like, I'm sure they really compared notes. So it's really cool that seeing these two at the top of their game, putting out shit the same year. That's awesome. So yeah, he's like an inch away. He's like a centimeter away from getting his face ripped off from the lawnmower, and then Busey comes in and just shoots the shit out of it and just stops it right there, and he's just like stuck. And then he like pulls the gun on Cyborg, and he's like, "Speaking to the microphone, squid brain," whatever. He says something like that. It's hilarious, and they cut to like they're in the bathroom or something, and Utah's like kind of freaking out, like he's a little stressed. He's like can't believe that, and Busey's like, "You did good, kid. Like, don't worry. Keep your head up." He's like trying to cheer him up, and then they go to the kitchen, and Sizemore is all fucking pissed off. He's hella pissed off. He's like, 3 years, like 3 years. I've been following these guys. I've been undercover this long. He's fucking pissed, and they blew his cover, and he's like, "How the fuck can these guys rob the bank over here when they were in Fort Lauderdale that same day?" He's like, "Can you answer me that, huh?" And then Keanu's like, "Shit," like, he's like, "Oh, it's like we fucked up."
No research, guys. Come on.
Yeah,
We looked
exactly.
into this stuff before. Shot up everybody in the house and threw the lady through the glass shower, and
yeah, they hella jumped the gun, But that's kind of what I like about these guys. They shoot from the hip, no research, just gut. They go off gut, and if we're wrong, we're wrong. People die, they die. You know what I'm saying? I mean, at the very least, these guys were like drug dealers, so they at least caught them with that shit. You know what I'm saying? And they have mad guns. You know what I'm saying? That I don't think they're probably allowed to have. So at the very least, this is like,
right? Found
what's
three
that?
keys of
Yeah,
stuff. I
yeah,
don't know what that's worth nowadays, but probably a lot.
yeah, yeah. So at the very least, this is a alcohol, tobacco, firearms situation. You know what I'm saying? So can't knock them for that.
But
You so like there's a ring at the doorbell, like, so Keanu's with Lori Petty. I guess that's actually the shot. That's the shot, the overhead shot where they're lying, and he's like reflecting, and she's asleep, and yeah, that's a really cool shot. I really like that shot. Really artsy '80s kind of, like the geometry of the shot, like the mise en scène, if you will, of that shot. Like it just has a very '80s look. Like you can make, like, that should be a poster. I don't know why that isn't a poster on people's wall of naked Keanu and Lori Petty. You should have it framed on your wall, Kris.
just the Lori Petty part. I'll cut out the Keanu part, and
Yeah, okay, there you
I'll
go.
put my face over on Keanu's body. Yes, that'll work.
You know, Photoshop yourself into that. So yeah, so they're lying there, and there's a ring at the doorbell, and it's Bodie and company, and they want to go surfing, and it's like, don't you guys ever fucking sleep? Jeez, fucking 5 a.m. I'm like, Jesus Christ. um, and so they're on the beach, and he sees them go out, and they're killing it on the waves, and then this is like that pivotal moment, like you pointed out earlier when you were watching it, how he finally makes that connection that Bodie and them are the ex-presidents. Finally it's like it should have been a fucking Captain Obvious thing, but it's like finally it's like, bro, they're the ex-presidents, bro. Like he sees them like in action, he sees their moves, like he's like, oh, like if they're like how did I not get that? The most kick-ass surfer group is also the guys robbing banks who we thought were surfers. You know what I'm saying? Like he finally makes that connection. It's hilarious. But yeah, we see that like light bulb moment for Keanu. Very dim light bulb, I might add.
I like that
and
moment. That was a nice moment for me.
yeah, yeah, you like that, huh?
It was a little obvious, but I like the way it worked.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's
then we see that, yeah, we see Pappas and Utah. They're on another stakeout, and he tells Utah tells Pappas like, hey, like he tells him his theory, like, oh, I think these guys are them, like he's like, are you sure, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I followed him, and it's funny because he's like, he goes to Tower Records, and then he goes to Patrick's Roadhouse, like he says that, which is crazy because that's actually a real place. There's a real place called Patrick's Roadhouse, or I think there was a place. I think it's closed down now, but it's called Patrick Roadhouse, and Patrick Swayze was in Roadhouse just a couple years before this, so it's kind of a funny little reference. Mind blown, right?
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, and then so they're doing this little stakeout, and they just get there, and Busey's like, time for lunch. It's like reminded me of freaking Hot Fuzz, which is funny because Hot Fuzz references Point Break. Like you see, like like Nick Frost in Hot Fuzz is like all about action movies. Like they don't get any action on the job in their little small village in England. So he's like, oh, let's watch Bad Boys 2. Let's watch Point Break, whatever. So we see them watching Point Break, and so it's kind of funny that yeah, and there's a scene where Simon Pegg. He gets restationed from London, where he's like, kind of doing a lot of cases, and he's like a kick-ass cop. He gets restationed to this random ass village like Norwich or whatever, and there's no crime at all. And on the first day they show him, they're like, oh, here's the police station, and he's like, want some pudding, want some cake, want some this. And they're giving him all these cake. He's like, I'm good. He's like all pissed off, like I'm good. And and so they're like, okay, what do we do now? After he's like been given all these little treats and cakes and coffee and stuff. Simon's like, okay, what's next? And then the captain's like, well, time for lunch. So it reminded me of this because it's like he pulls up in the car, and he's like, you know what, lunchtime. And Utah's like, dude, it's 10:30, and he's like, I'm fucking hungry.
They've
Hungry
been there
never
for an hour and
sleeps.
a half. They've been there an hour and a half. It's 10:30. Makes perfect sense. Go to lunch now.
Yeah, I know you're an early lunch guy. I know that's your forte, right?
10:30 is too early for me.
You're an 11 o'clock guy, right? Yeah. So he's like, okay. He's like, right around the corner, there's this sandwich shop. He's like, give me two meatball subs. And he's like, all right, I got it. And as he walks away, he's like, Utah, two. I said two. So he turns the corner and he's paying. And then all of a sudden, right at that moment when his back is turned, you see this Lincoln just like screech up, and you see the ex-president jump out of there like it's like circus clowns jumping out of some little car, and then they rush into the bank.
That's an awesome moment. Awesome moment.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
He doesn't see it at all.
Yeah, he doesn't see it at all, and then Utah, comes back with the food, and he's like, "Oh, anything?" And Pappas is like, "Nope." He's like, "What about that Lincoln there?" And he's like, "What Lincoln?" And he's like, "There's fucking Lincoln right there." And he's like, "Oh shit!" And then we see the ex-president's running back out, and he's like, "Fuck," or whatever. And they're like, "Oh shit!" And then he comes out. Utah and Pappas, they both have their guns, and they're like about to start firing or whatever. They kind of, the ex-presidents are getting back in the car, but then you see them kind of do a double take. They're like, what the fuck? And they look over and they see Utah walking towards them with the gun, and they must have been like, what the fuck? Is that Utah? What the fuck? Like, that must have been the real oh shit moment for them, just, yeah. And, this is a really cool car chase scene, and really cool on foot scene. This to me, this car chase scene is better than any fucking Fast and the Furious shit. I love this shit. Um, and what's funny is, so Fast and the Furious, the first one, it basically steals the plot of Point Break, but this is so much better. That was crap, and it was pretty unoriginal, and that's something that I remember Ebert and Roper. I remember Roper bringing that up when uh, when Fast and Furious came out, and it was a big ass hit. And I remember they were reviewing it, and Roper was like this is shit. This steals the Point Break plot. Thumbs down. And then Ebert was like, yeah, it does steal the Point Break plot. Thumbs up. like they totally had diametrically
They
opposed
could never
thinking.
agree on any movie. There's no movie they could agree on,
Yeah,
except for a
exactly.
crappy movie, maybe. Then they both say thumbs up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what was so funny about it, though. So Roper hated it because it was unoriginal and stupid, and Ebert loved it because it was unoriginal and stupid. And like, he's like, just like it for what it is, goddammit. And they just, yeah, they were never could see eye to eye, and I love that. I used to watch that shit all the time back in the day.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah, I used to love that. So yeah, and so he, Bodhi decides like, hey, I need to run out of here. You steal that fucking car, and we see him at the gas station, and the other dudes, kick some other guy's ass and jump in his yellow Mustang or something like that. And then Bodhi's like, shit, I need to torch this car. So he like gets the gas thing and he lights it up, and we see him like torching their car, the Lincoln or whatever. And it's just a really cool visual of Ronald Reagan blow torching a car.
That was awesome and possibly symbolic as well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The way he torched the U.S. minorities, that was symbolic of him torching that car.
No
Um,
emotion, no emotion at all.
yeah,
He's got the mask,
yeah. You just see
much like it.
this. Yeah, you just see this. Almost Mike Myers type of,
Yes, exactly.
character, emotionless, just destruction. Love that. So yeah, and then Keanu comes out of nowhere and he tackles Bodhi Reagan, and Busey's shooting the shit out of that car. He can't hit shit. He busted like 50 million rounds and couldn't hit nothing. Um, and they keep running and they keep chasing and they're going through backyards and shit. It's cool. It's like that Ferris Bueller ending when he's trying to get back home. It's like that meets Pulp Fiction or whatever, because because they both take place in like the backwoods of LA, like the just LA hood, like LA surfer crackheads, like, and I just love how Bodhi's trying to evade him. He goes into that house with that lady, and then Keanu just breaks the glass and goes in, and then the lady there is like kicking his ass or whatever,
A
and
brick,
then
something. Yeah.
yeah, then he goes to another house, and then Bodhi throws the dog, the pit bull, at him. He's like, "Oh shit!" I thought Bodhi would have had more of a heart for animals. There, kind of disappointed in you, Bodhi. You're not Sarah McLachlan friendly. You're not on Sarah McLachlan's cool list. Um, yeah, so they're chasing, and then yeah, like I was saying, this part really reminds me of True Lies, the chase scene with Schwarzenegger on the motorcycle, or like he's on the horse, the Arab dude's on the motorcycle. Just like if you like, I'm not, I didn't analyze these, frame by frame. This is just off top, but I feel like if you like, played these side by side, you could see a lot of similarities in the montagery of this, the editing, the framing, the mise en scène of it is great. I mean, this is a real high octane scene. I love it. This is some of the best action you've ever seen in cinema history, I feel. And then we see that LA River, and that's like a Terminator 2 thing. That's something that they have in common. I
Hmm.
almost wonder if like Bodhi looked over and was like, oh shit, what's that liquid metal guy doing over there? Like, what the hell's going on over there? That would have been funny.
They used
Um,
to film at the same time to save money.
yeah, yeah. They're like, can we book this for 2 days? Like, just one movie, just one. And he's like, "Come on, okay, shoot, you guys shoot now." It must have been like Dracula, because when they did the Dracula back in the day, like James Whale or whatever, the Universal Dracula. Um, they would do that. They would shoot that, and then after when they were done shooting, they did like a Spanish version or whatever. So they're like, all right, like bring in the Spanish speakers and stuff, and then there was like the Spanish version. They did that like the same like back to back. You know what I'm saying? Like makes me wonder if they did that with this Point Break and T2.
Could be.
And so like he's chasing and he's about to jump the fence, and Utah has the gun pointing at him. He's like, on the ground, and he's like, he fucks up his knee or something like that, but he has the gun pointing at him. And Reagan looks back, and he knows that Keanu won't shoot him, and we see his eyes, and then we see through like the Reagan's eyes, and it's like nightmare fuel. Seeing his eyes through the Reagan eyes is just really creepy.
Yes.
And just Keanu just can't do it. He can't bring himself to do it. And he just shoots at the sky like, ah! Just in frustration. And that's the thing they mentioned Hot Fuzz, how Nick Frost loves that. And then Swayze just jumps the fence and he just jogs away all happily and cheery. He's like just jogging like not a care in the world, like he's jogging to Starbucks or something. He's like no
Not out of breath or anything after that. That was like a great scene. But they were running for like 3 minutes. They had like top
yeah,
speed over
yeah,
fences and
exactly.
through houses and battling housewives, and he's not even winded. He's just like, oh yeah,
Yeah, he's just
I made
jogging
it.
like
I made it.
yeah, he's just jogging like he's jogging to Starbucks or something.
Probably was. Probably was. Probably needs to get a latte. I don't know.
I don't know if Starbucks had made it down to L.A. yet at that time.
True. True. That
I
was
mean, well,
the beginning of Starbucks.
you used to be a manager, right?
Yeah. I mean, they blew up in the 90s, so it's probably before they got there.
Yeah, that was like late 93, 94, 95 maybe. I don't know. And so Keanu, we cut and we see Keanu. He tells Lori Petty that he's an FBI agent, and um, she's pissed. She's like, "What the fuck, asshole? Why'd you tell me this shit?" So she's pissed.
That
And
was
then we
Bodhi's
cut.
plan. Was that Bodhi's plan to tell her so that she get all pissed off at him for some reason?
No, I think that was just happenstance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think that was his divine plan at all. It just kind of worked out that way.
Yeah.
Um, and then we see the surfer dudes, and they're at the bonfire, and they're POS too. They're pissed that Keanu's a federal agent. But it's funny, like all the like the lesser surfer dudes are all pissed, but then Swayze loves it. He's like, I love it. He's like, this just raises the stakes of the game. Like you know, he's like, he says like, like this, we have a lust for life. He's like, not like these guys who are on the freeway in their metal coffins. Like he's really is just like Justin Theroux in Wanderlust. Like he says the same shit. I mean, I'm sure in Wanderlust they kind of stole that from this, but it's kind of funny. Yeah, Petty tries to shoot Utah in the middle of the night. Utah's like, "Whoa, what the fuck?" And she has the gun to him. She's like, like, "How could you lie to me? You lied about your parents. Fuck you." So I don't blame her for being pissed off about that. But he's trying to win her back. He's pretty pathetic. He's almost as pathetic as Robin Thicke trying to win back his wife back in the day. It's pretty pathetic. There's a ring at the door, and who could it be? Bodhi and company, and they're like, "Dude, let's go somewhere, bro. Let's go." And Keanu's like, "Surfing," and then he's like, "No, something higher, bro, something bigger." Um, and then we cut to, and they take him on a small plane, and they're like, "What are we doing?" And then they're passing out. Like, here's your jump, your parachute. Here's yours. Here's yours. They're handing these out. Bodhi's talking shit. And Keanu's like, "Are we gonna jump or jerk off?" Which I love that line. That was like my line on like MySpace for a long time. That was like my quote.
That's why you were unfriended so much at that time.
Yeah, love that
People
line.
jumped. No,
Great line. And so
great.
they jump out of the plane and they're all skydiving. Like, this is fucking crazy. It's really cool, really poetic, and they did this for real. Like I'm like, how the hell did they shoot this shit? You know what I'm saying? Like
Hmm.
the direction and the camera work and the choreography of it is like off the fucking chain. I'm just like, how? You know what I'm saying? There's no CGI, none of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, um, and they're just like kind of flying, and then they all link together, and they kind of do this like Prince of Tides thing, where they're like linking in the air. Really cheesy. Um, and then they're like, all right, spread up, and they all like spread apart, and then they launch their parachutes, and it's kind of like the last hurrah of their friendship with Keanu. You know,
Hmm.
um, and then they land, they're all happy. And it's just kind of funny that Keanu, he seems to like his worries go away for a second. Like he's like, okay, maybe these guys don't realize I'm with the FBI.
God.
Like, he kind of forgot about that for a second, and then they land, and he's like, oh shit, these guys are the ex-presidents. I got to do something with them. And then they walk him over to the van, and they're like, okay, we got to show you something. And they have this like little TV. It's like a little PSP or something, like a little Game Boy thing that has a TV on it. They show that Lori Petty is tied up with his homie Rosie or whatever. I don't know who the fuck this guy is, but he's like, Rosie's an animal, bro. He's like, I don't know what he'll do. He keeps stressing that, and
Hmm.
then Keanu throws him against the van. He's all pissed off, and he keeps mentioning Rosie. Why Rosie? Why that name Rosie? um, he's like, he keeps saying it like he's some angel of death or something. I remember the actor. The actor, he was in Weird Science the series. He played Chet in Weird Science the series, and you know he doesn't look very powerful. It just looks like some a-hole with long hair. You know what I'm saying? Like,
What happens when you name him Rosie? You know,
yeah, he just looks like some dude who got kicked out of Megadeth or some shit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
that's
and
sad.
it's funny because the guy from Megadeth got kicked out of Metallica, so that's kind of funny. And then here's that Keanu classic line reading where he says, "I am an FBI agent." Love that. And so they bring Keanu onto their next robbery. They're in the van or whatever, and he's like, "Out of mask. Sorry, Johnny. No more masks." They all get a mask except Johnny, and they go in, and they should have gave him like a Kennedy mask, right? That would have been cool, right? Or is that part of the rule? Like no dead presidents? Like it has to be presidents who are alive at that time, but not president or something.
I don't know the rules here.
um, but they enter the bank, and Keanu's like trying to be a G, comes in, you know, um, and then Bodhi, this time for some reason he decides to go to the vault or whatever, and him and his boys are confused. This is a real audible. He this is a real on the fly, and they're like, "Whoa, what the fuck? Like, you didn't want to run that by us first?" He's like, "Go to the vault." And they're like, "What the fuck?" He's like, "Go to the vault," or whatever.
He's
And this
addicted
would,
to the thrill. He's addicted to the thrill. He's got to
yeah,
get more. He's got
yeah,
to get 9,500 seconds. He got
yeah.
to get in that vault.
No, that's a good point. I mean, but
When's it
this
going to
would
end?
prove to be a mistake on a few levels.
Hmm.
Like, and it takes me back. I'm like, how did these guys come up with a script for this? Or you know what I'm saying? Where they I want to make Dog Day Afternoon meets Endless Summer. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like, where did they come up with the bank robberies and surfing? It just seems just so fucking random, but really works.
Both beautiful sports that everybody enjoys.
Yeah, both American pastimes,
Yes, exactly. American pastimes.
surfing and robbing banks.
And cherry pie,
Yep.
apple pie. Cherry pie is a different story, which we'll leave for later, for the late time edition.
Yeah, no, Cherry Pie wasn't on the soundtrack of this. Warrant Cherry Pie was not
Maybe
on
it
here.
should have been. Maybe it
Could
should
have
have.
been good. could have been good if they did. I could see it on the soundtrack. You know, and they did that remake, which I don't know why. You know what I'm saying? Why did they do that remake with? You know, I love Edgar Ramirez. I think he's a great actor, but that was crap. Emilia Perez was crap. But he's great. But I mean, this is a masterpiece. That's like seeing the Mona Lisa and be like, I need to redo this. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, it was terrible.
just don't fuck
Leave
with a
good, leave
masterpiece.
the great movies alone, please.
Yeah, yeah,
Don't
exactly.
redo them.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hypothetically, if they did another remake, I guess then the mass would be like Obama, Clinton, Biden, Trump, and the George W. Bush, senior and junior. You know what I'm saying? Those would be the guys in the mass. You know, be kind of funny. Um, even even they're like, dude, I don't want that Trump mask, bro. Like, burn that fucking mask.
The
I'll take
scariest
the
mask
George.
of all, though, like the Reagan.
Yeah, I'll take the George W. Bush over his ass, bro. Um, and so they're there and they're in the vault, and then like there's an undercover cop guy. He's like in plain clothes or whatever, and then all of a sudden he has a gun on him on his ankle or some shit, and he starts busting caps. He hits Swayze like on the shoulder or some shit. They kind of try to scare you, making it seem like it was closer to his heart, but it really wasn't.
Shooting everybody. This guy was like not missing. He was shooting
Yeah,
everybody in
yeah. He hit Keanu. He hit the Nixon guy.
there.
He hit his little brother, or the Nixon guy is his little brother, right, or whatever. Like, and you didn't know that. Like, I don't think that comes out until now. You didn't realize. But then it's like, is he his brother or is he like his brother, bro? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like his surfer brother. You know what I'm saying? But
Soul
he,
brother.
yeah. I guess he kind of looks like him. So yeah, he seems to be his brother. And then Swayze's fucking pissed off and he takes his ass out. He busts a cap in his ass. And Swayze sees his brother, the ugly kid Joe guy. He sees him. He sees him slide. He's on the top of him. He's like, "You okay, bro?" And yeah, he sees him slide to the other side. And the other guys are like, "Dude, we gotta fucking go, bro." And so they're like, "Oh shit." He's fucking pissed. He's hella pissed. Eh? He walks by Keanu, and we see this shot. So he walks by Keanu, and it's cool because it's like also from Keanu's perspective. Like, I don't think we've seen Keanu's perspective since coming into the party. From
Mhm.
that party scene, and that was like a euphoric scene. From his perspective. But now we see the other side of that, and it's from his perspective. And he's looking at Bodhi walk by all fucking pissed off, and yeah, so we see Keanu's perspective, and then I also thought that would be a great name for a band. Keanu's perspective, an album. Keanu's perspective, and you see Swayze like fuming. He's fucking pissed off, and he's like, you see, like he's about to walk away, and then all of a sudden he just turns around and bangs him in the face with the gun, the butt of the gun, from Keanu's perspective, and it's like the camera just falls to the ground, like just thuds to the ground. It's just hilarious.
That's
We
good.
see like from his perspective on the ground as they're like running out of the out of the bank. It's pretty funny, and it's like the blue tint from that is just kind of cool. Like you see the like his reflection on the bank tile floor. It's a cool shot.
Hmm.
Another genius stroke by Bigelow there. And then we see cops there, and there's TV crews, and then that stupid Mexican cop guy, and he's a punk with his boxy hair, and and then McGinley shows up, and he's fucking pissed, and they're trying to arrest Utah, um, and and McKinley's like chewing him out, and he's like, and then Pappas like, hey, what are you doing? And he's like, yeah, you can't arrest him. He's trying to save Utah. And McGinley's like, you know what? Like, you're just like him, except you're a little older, a little fatter, and a little more pathetic. And it's funny because it reminds me of The Simpsons when they went to Itchy and Scratchy Land,
Hmm.
and they arrest Bart and Homer. Like the security arrest both of them, and we see Marge. She doesn't know any of this is going on. She's like, "This is the greatest vacation ever." And then all of a sudden you hear on the intercom, they're like, Marge Simpson, we've arrested your son. Please report to security. And she's like, and then all of a sudden you hear the intercom again. It's like, Marge Simpson, we've also arrested your older, balder, fatter son. It reminds me of that. And so he's like talking shit at McGinley, and then Busey pulls out another. He's like, "Listen, I was in this bureau when you were still popping zits and jacking off to the Sears catalog." And that's funny because that also reminds me of The Simpsons when it's Who Shot Mr. Burns, and they're interrogating everyone, and they interrogate Moe, um, and he's like, they're like, "What were you doing on the night Montgomery Burns was shot?" He was like, "Oh, I was having dinner with friends." It was like, it's because he has a lie detector. He's like, I was having dinner with friends. I was having dinner alone. He's like, I was watching TV alone. He's like, all right, all right, all right. He's like, I was looking over women in the Sears catalog. And he's like, oh, okay. Like J.C. Penney catalog. He's like, ding. Yeah, it reminds me a lot of that. And then Pappas just like knocks him. He just has enough of it, so he's like, I'm just gonna knock McGinley's ass out. And it's just like a great cathartic scene. He just knocks the shit out of him. It's like you almost want Chris Tucker to come out and be like, "You got knocked the fuck out." Tell him. And so the surfers, they're going to do another skydive after that, and Utah drives out there, and Pappas is around with the gun, and Roach, one of Bodie's homies, sees Pappas from behind, and he shoots at Pappas, and then Pappas shoots him out, and this like Green Arrow looking fool, like the surfer dude, the one surfer dude with the short hair, shoots his ass. But then the other long haired dude is still alive, and then he comes out and takes out Pappas and kills him. I actually forgot that Busey dies in this. Watching it back, forgot about that. For some reason I thought he lived and you just didn't see him near the end. I thought he did some other shit.
Very
Yeah,
tragic. Very tragic. I mean,
yeah,
it was his fault too, wasn't it? That he like Keanu.
yeah.
It's his fault, wasn't he? That he got shot or something like that.
I mean, kind of like he should have taken more precautions. I guess. Sucks, bro.
Suck.
So Swayze makes Utah go up in the plane. He's like, "Come on, get your ass over here," And so their whole thing is that they're like flying over Mexico so they can like be free and not get extradited somehow. And the other dude is dying because he got shot, so he's on the plane and he's dying. He's getting cold. He's getting pale, and Swayze just kind of props him up, and he's like, "All right, we're over Mexico. All right." And he like pushes him out, pushes him out of the plane, and Swayze's like, "Adios, Utah," and he jumps out of the plane. They're over Mexican territory at this point, and but what's cool is that you see him fly out of the plane like in one take, like he's like, "Well, Utah," and he jumps out, and then like the camera goes with him, and you just see the whole thing like in one take. There's no editing, there's no CGI, none of that shit. It's awesome. And then all of a sudden, like, Keanu's just so fucking crazy. He's like, he just jumps out of the plane and just no parachute, nothing. And then Swayze must have been like, what the fuck? Like, he just pounces on Swayze and he's just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, you're fucking crazy. He even out crazy Bodie there, and, they're kind of like, you pull the parachute, like, no, you pull it, or whatever. And so it's like, you see it getting closer to the damn ground, and they pull it hell late. They could have died from that, like just hitting the floor like that, dude. Yeah, they pulled the parachute hell late, and then they kind of look over. The other dude is dead. He landed, and he's just dead. Like he pulled the parachute, but he died there. And then you see money kind of flying all over the place, and and this just to do a sidebar on Swayze. He was a talented ass dude. I know you're not the biggest Swayze fan, supposedly, apparently. You telling me at the 11th hour that you're not a big Swayze guy? But he was a talented ass dude. I mean, he could dance, Dirty Dancing. He could sing. She's Like the Wind. He could play football. He was like a quarterback, whatever, in Texas football team. You know what I'm saying? He was almost like a white Jamie Foxx. Like he was really talented. Like he could do all those things. You know what I mean? Jamie Foxx can do all those things too. You know what I'm saying? He could play football. He could sing. He could dance. He could act. He can ride horses. You know what I'm saying? Um, and I like actors like that. I like actors who are versatile, who can do a lot of different shit. Like Jackie Chan. You know what I'm saying? Jackie Chan's hella talented.
Mm-hmm.
He could sing. He could dance. He could fight. He could jump. He could do all that shit. I love that. We need more actors who are Renaissance men like that. You know what I'm saying? Not these one note ass actors. And so Utah, he's on the ground. He can't get up because he fucked up his knee again. His whole football injury. And Swayze just drives off, but he lets Lori Petty go, and and then Swayze's like, "Hey Johnny, see you in the next life," or whatever, and he just drives off, and he thinks he'll never be seen again. He thinks he's totally free and clear. And then we kind of dissolve to, we see it's raining like hell, and Keanu has longer hair, and he's in Australia apparently. Like a year later, and Keanu is walking out to the beach, but all the surfers are coming in. They're all walking, opposite. Um, and then we see Swayze standing on the beach, and he's looking all spiritual again, kind of looking out on the horizon of the beach, and he's just looking there, and then you see this Reagan mask fall in front of him. He's like, Utah. He knows it's him. Keanu threw that mask, and he's been on the chase for his ass all over the place. Went to looked all over Mexico, then to Sumatra, then Australia. And he's like, you got to go down, bro. And then Buddy asks him, like, still surfing? And he's like, every day. Like at least he picked up that passion from him. You know what I'm saying? Like, he even though he's a cop, he was at least able to teach him about this, spiritual thing that is surfing. And Keanu tackles him, and they have another fight. Swayze kicks his ass, but then Keanu gets him with the cuffs. He kind of tricks him with that, and then the helicopter comes out, and Swayze is pissed. You know what I'm saying? Like he's like, "What the fuck?" And he looks and he sees these big ass waves crashing, and you got to give credit to Utah. He's a pretty good cop. He's just doing his job. You know what I'm saying? He's doing it well. He's trying to see it through. And Swayze convinces him, to give him one more shot, one more wave before he goes. Before he goes to prison. And it's just that heart. I guess just that. The way Keanu couldn't shoot him earlier, when he was jumping the fence and he had him in his sights, it's like that same sort of thing. Keanu just has his heart where he's like, yeah, okay, fine. Like, I'll let you do it. You know what I'm saying? I'll give it to you. He knows that this is, he's been waiting his whole life for this, and he has nowhere to go. He says that. He's like, I got nowhere to go, man. He's like, I can't paddle to New Zealand. He's like, just let me get this. He's like, all right, man. Like I think because he learned what surfing is all about, that's why he let him do that. And he's like, hey, okay, like I know this is like your last meal before death row, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll give you this, and that's it. And so Swayze's paddling out, and the Australian cops are pissed, and they're like, you let him go, and he's like, no, I didn't. And he's like, he's not coming back. And you see Swayze, he's surfing the wave, he's on the big ass wave, but then you see him eat shit, and he goes out exactly as he wanted to. He said to himself, it's not tragic if you die doing something you love. You know what I'm saying? And then we see Keanu, he throws his badge into the water, just like floating there. It's like he's no longer a FBI agent anymore. And then we end on this hella 80s hair metal song by Rat. Nobody Rides for Free. It's just perfect. Like it's like the perfect end theme. You just walk away like that movie fucking rocked, dude. Just the shit. And this came out like right before grunge hit. This came out July 12th, 91. Nevermind by Nirvana came out September 24th, that same thing. So this is, a precursor to that. And I think this came out like a week after Terminator 2 or something like that. Mm. Like I was saying, so these movies and the directors are very linked, in various ways. Like I said, 91 was a pretty good ass year for movies. I told you, I mentioned Terminator 2. That was the top movie of 91. Terminator 2, then Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, with that, which I don't love that movie, but who could forget that Bryan Adams song that you love so much, right, Kris? You got Beauty and the Beast. You got Silence of the Lambs. You got awesome JFK. Movie. Got Cape Fear. And these are just the movies that were the top of the box office. But seeing the movie now, it's like, it's a pretty beautiful film. It kind of hit me harder now, like watching it. When I was younger, I just thought it was just a cheesy action movie. I just watched it for fun. But actually, seeing it now, I feel more of the sadness of it. Like, how'd you feel watching it back now?
Yeah, kind of same way. And there's a lot of, I don't know, it just kind of left me feeling the same way. Kind of sad about, I didn't realize that his partner got shot up and died. And, I was just like, okay, surfing my last wave.
Yeah. Yeah, and then I guess also what adds to the sadness is just knowing that, Swayze passed, he's not with us anymore. He passed a while ago already. It's like 08, 09, But he was able to do some great shit. He left a mark on the world. And one of his last great movies is Donnie Darko, which I love that movie. And I'll be talking about that eventually, probably with my wife, because she loves that movie too. So yeah. And speaking of my wife, I told her I wanted to do this movie. I wanted to do this movie and some other movies that were like female directed, even though they don't really have strong female leads per se. Like this is mainly a guy movie, Mm-hmm. And she was kind of like, you shouldn't do it if there aren't a lot of women in the movie, But I was kind of like, well, no, it's a female director, and to me that's valid. If we're seeing this world through female eyes. We're seeing, guys, killing each other through, women's eyes. And it's similar to, it reminds me of the French film Beau Travail, which is directed by Claire Denis. And we're seeing like this male on male violence through the prism of a woman, and it just reminded me a lot of that. So, and to me, that's valid. I'm saying? Yeah, sure. It's a sausage fest, but, at least it was directed by a woman. And that's important, I think, seeing the world through female lenses. Any other words on this, Kris?
Beautifully put. I think you should end on that.
All right. That was Point Break. Love this movie. Thanks for joining me, Kris. I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
Likewise.
Thanks for listening out there. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Also, like and subscribe our shit on YouTube, please. On Spotify. I kind of took that for granted before. I would, just watch videos and shit, and I wouldn't subscribe to stuff. But now that I'm actually doing it myself, I'm like, damn it. Like, now I'm doing it more with stuff that I like. You know what I'm saying? And we would really appreciate it if you did that with this. If you do like listening to this, hook a brother up. Like and subscribe. All right. Thanks for listening to Briterion Bollection. Thanks for being part of the Briterion Bollection gang. We'll see you next time. Peace out.
Ciao.